welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Buddy Sotelo, Esquire, Effervescent Evan Ginsberg, and Dr. Mike Leno. So, we can come right out of the shoot. No guests tonight, but that's okay because it's always fun when we do our standard grab bag of wrestling thoughts and.
Well, Russ,
and
let me
prayers.
ask, because 2 weeks ago we had a fun show, your idea, your concept of wrestling food show. Evan, do you have any food wrestling related memories that you can think of?
Sure.
Um, no. Yeah.
Like when
You
your
have
dad took you to Madison Square Garden, did you guys bring food or were there some special items at Madison
And
Square
if so,
Garden
what
you
did you
ate?
order?
we just bought the usual concession stand shit. I would have to really think about it because you guys caught me off guard because that was a show from several weeks ago. I have no idea.
I
I'm not
can't
a
remember.
foodie.
Well, the couple of times that I was lucky enough to shoot ringside at Madison Square Garden, we never ate. You ate before you got there. I should have brought up like where you go up and that was the place that the wrestlers would go sometimes after the show, the bar area, the Holland Hotel. But upstairs was where Scolin's office was, where you got your credentials, your pass every time. And he'd ask, I'm with Apter once with Napolitano, and he'd like ask our names, like he'd given probably thousands of passes to George and Bill. Me, because I was, there irregularly or with the summers that I spent in New York. But
Evan,
Evan, I talked
you
about
wouldn't stop by at Nathan's. You wouldn't go and stop by Nathan's before you'd
No,
go
it
to.
was because the
that's too
garden
out of
was
the
Monday
way.
night. Monday night. So we had school the next day and I was a kid. So and it ended at 11 o'clock. So by the time you were home, you're looking at 12, 12:30, whatever the case may be. And, for a kid, it's late. So it really wasn't about food. It was about the show and getting back home for school the next day.
Well, I
What
will
was the
say this.
rationale for the
Oh,
curfew, though? The 11 o'clock curfew was heavily enforced in New
Because
York.
it's union overtime after 11 o'clock.
Oh,
So I was at a Stevie Wonder concert at Madison Square Garden, and right before 11 o'clock, he said, quote, this is going to cost me $40,000 extra, but we're not ending this show now.
wow,
And he went to
wow,
12:30 at night. True
wow,
wow.
story. He
wow.
went
Well,
from
that's
8
awesome.
o'clock to 12:30. Stevie Wonder, 4.5 hours at
Well,
the
I,
Garden.
I, go
I
ahead, Russ.
always had to have my standard Carnation chocolate malt when I was at Candlestick or at any arena. If the one with the little wooden stick
Yeah, the
that they
wooden
give you
stick.
as I don't know how that qualifies as an actual spoon, but somehow you're able to use it to eat an entire carton of chocolate malt especially back in Candlestick when it was really hot. That's quite a memory for me is getting the chocolate malt from the stadium. But anyway, let's talk about, instead of food, let's talk about what's been going on in wrestling, what's been going on with you guys. First of all, before we get to any of this stuff, a couple weeks ago, Northern California lost another indie wrestler due to tragic reasons. A guy by the name of Lars Luger, that was his performing name, and
Mm.
he was a victim of gun violence. And
Oh,
not someone that I've worked with, but someone that everybody that I know
well,
works with.
what promotions did he work for?
He worked for East Bay Pro and Oasis and some of the other NorCal feds up here. And just a real tragic loss, again, due to gun violence. I'm a
Oh,
big opponent of unlimited gun ownership. Have unfortunately had other friends die because of gun violence, and I don't own a gun, and I don't ever really want to. It's a little ironic to me that, some wrestling fans are such big gun owners because that's the one place you're never going to see a gun involved. Hopefully, if it isn't, Harley Race packing his 38 special in his bag and taking it to his locker room.
I knew two indie wrestlers, I'm not going to name them, who were sitting before a match contemplating, quote, if I shoot you and it's just a flesh wound, it would really get over. And the promoter was like, "Are you guys insane? What if the bullet kills a fan or ricochets? You know, it's
Yeah, no,
some of the
they
wrestlers are insane."
yes, and they own guns,
I
which
couldn't
is
make this up. I mean, I heard this
I
with my own
believe it
ears.
100%.
on that respect, that you guys, we didn't talk about this like 6 weeks ago, but or 5 weeks ago. Steve Regal, what was his WWE name? They made him change it because of the Steve. William
William
Regal.
Regal?
He put out a tweet saying that he's looking. He didn't name any promotion in particular, but the insane high spots just for the pop instead
Oh
of
yeah,
ring
yeah.
psychology. And it hit the business pretty hard because he's telling the truth. Like
Yeah,
you
don't
know, it
break your
had.
neck for a stupid spot that is necessary. Might not even be the finish of a match, but even so, these chain wrestling high spots are really
Well,
getting
that's not
people
chain
hurt.
wrestling. Chain wrestling is, mat wrestling, something
But they're
like,
turning high spots into chain wrestling, which it isn't.
well, they're all transitions. Like Harley Race's, the biggest example, Harley Race would win with a simple suplex. In 73, whatever year that he I think the following year, he was the transition between Dory Jr. to Jack Briscoe because Dory Funk Sr. refused to allow Jr. to drop directly to Jack Briscoe, who was, both great wrestlers, but Jack was an amateur great, Dory was not. And Harley would just use you have the guy up for 30 seconds, bring him down. That was the finish.
The Hangman.
Or you guys remember, or Evan does, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Masked Superstar with the superplex pin, and Stan Hansen's lariat. Now they're all transition moves that no one even thinks the figure four is going to get a submission, maybe unless it's a quality indie, West Coast Pro, or the long lamented PWG, which I just learned ceased
No,
about a
nobody
year ago.
wants to sell that. They only want to sell like the most extreme,
But
big,
even the
loud.
super kicks, like Shawn Michaels'
Yeah.
super kick, that was a finish. It was a finish when Chris Adams created it, a finish, and now they're just
And
spots.
now it's as common as a headlock, really. And same with like a DDT. No, I mean a DDT used
Oh
to be
yeah,
a
Jake
really big
Roberts
deal.
DDT, that was the finish,
Yeah, yeah.
and it looked devastating. And so now, are you telling me that some schmuck from today could survive a DDT that he would have, in the
Not just a
80s?
DDT, but like three tornado DDTs coming off the top rope, and swanton bombs, and 450 splashes, and clotheslines off the top rope, and pile drivers off the
Well, I think
second
we need
rope,
to get
and
back to basics. Like Russ, I sent you. What match did I send you? Because I've been watching a lot of old school, and before you came up, we were talking about old school. So I'm sitting there watching Mark Lewin against Terry Funk, but not from Detroit, where Lewin was the babyface, but I think it was Amarillo or Houston, and Terry was the babyface, defending his title against Mark Lewin, and it was amazing. So Russ, what did I send both you and Evan? Just a link to a couple of old great matches. Do you remember what it was?
yeah. Well, one of the it is tough because I get a lot of those links from different sources. So I forget which ones you sent, but I think one was with maybe with Vern Gagne, and one of his older matches. Let me go back and look here.
Well, I sent you something, but that was maybe a year ago. Billy Robinson against Vern Gagne from Comiskey Park, which was an amazing match. I mean, Gagne, before he got too old and wouldn't relinquish the title, really was pretty amazing. And that was my bucket list, was to photograph a lot of Vern Gagne matches. And so when the minute Roy Shire retired, he knew Gagne was coming in
Oh,
to
it's
take over. Oh, go
oh,
ahead.
sorry, yeah, it was Kowalski versus Giant Baba.
Yeah, Killer Kowalski, Giant Baba from probably about 1970, 71, before even All Japan was created. And Kowalski, I hear Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray on Busted Open say that God, I forget who Harley Race told I forget what wrestler, Ric Flair said he was broken in by or no, somebody was broken in by Killer Kowalski, Triple H, and then somebody somebody told him that Kowalski was the shits, and I'm just going, are you kidding? One of the greatest heels. He's my number two heel globally, at least in the television era,
Well, and of
right
course,
behind the
Evan has
Sheik.
tons of respect for Kowalski, right?
We all have tons of respect. He was a fantastic, believable promo. He was a killer heel that scared other wrestlers in
He
LA.
trained so many other people.
He trained, I haven't told Evan this too much, or if I have, it was maybe 35 years ago. When he was our killer heel, he was destroying everybody. Cowboy Frankie Lane, Rocky Johnson, Bobo Brazil. You know, he had a 45-minute Broadway at the Olympic Auditorium with Bruno, which was one of the greatest live matches I'd ever seen. And then he's feuding with Tolis. And oh God, it was just awesome. And the Tolis brothers, not as baby faces, but I've seen like Kowalski against Johnny Valentine. You know, these are people on his level, or Buddy Rogers. Those are worth looking at online. And he was great. I mean, Bruno, I think, ranked him up there as perhaps his favorite opponent to work with because he worked with him for years, and those matches were classics. Or I saw underneath Bruno and Jay Sprongo against the Valiants in the main event at an MSG show. If Evan was going, I'm sure he would have been at. But the second main event was Pedro against Killer Kowalski. I'd never seen them paired up, and that was an excellent match. You know, Pedro needed to be motivated, and it would take somebody who was so respected in the back everywhere he went globally, Australia, Japan, South America, all these places Kowalski wrestled, besides all the territories. And besides being a pillar stone with Don Leo Jonathan on Montreal Grand Prix for the Vachons, but he was incredible. Harley Race, I think he was just going off somebody else or whatever, because I got to see Kowalski against Dory Jr. at for the Missouri State title. That was a Broadway match at Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, and that was a fucking great. Just anything with Kowalski, I was there for, and you know, Evan probably saw him, you know, do more things because I didn't get to see him under the. My point was. Kowalski
He
at
was
his
the
peak.
executioner for a long time.
Yeah, but at his peak in LA in 72, around March, he introduces somebody called the Mighty Minton, who was jobbing for him and John Tolis. You know, he could go face or heel. Very clumsy. That would later turned out to be Big John Studd. We're talking 72. So Kowalski
Yeah,
asked
then
the
he
office.
joined him under the executioner HUD. So
Yeah,
the
but
executioner.
Kowalski got him jobs everywhere, and you know, soon John Studd was a name all to himself. But he was always putting over Walter, thanking him for every opportunity he got. And Tolis, Blassie, who worked with Kowalski. Blassie is a babyface working against a killer Kowalski. You know, this was stuff you dream about, and we got to see it in L.A. And Blassie spoke with such high regard for. I mean, he said that I don't really have to bump or do anything with Walter, something to that effect. Walter carried and called the match. Blassie, you know, would sell as at least as the babyface. Everybody loved him. Chris Tolis put Kowalski over, and you know, even I heard Strongbow didn't put over guys that much. You know, greatest respect for Walter. So uh, power to him, and I hope everybody seeks that match out. Baba, when he was still, you know, good, or there's even Inoki against Killer Kowalski from the old JWA before New Japan was formed. So, Ev, how about your thoughts? Like
I'll tell you a
some of the
funny
great stuff.
Kowalski story. Sunnyside Gardens, this little intimate arena we used to have. The Executioners are wrestling Strongbow and White Wolf, 1976. And Kowalski was no kid at that point. He'd retire like a year later. So they're in the mask. There's no air conditioning. Dead of summer. It felt like it was 110 degrees in there. Kowalski's got the mask on. 45 minutes, 2 out of 3 falls, like a machine, just pounding on these guys. And my father kept going, how is he not dropping dead from the heat under that mask? You know, because we're just sitting there and we're dropping dead from the heat. So Kowalski was
Yeah,
amazing.
that is one thing that I feel bad about with my mass wrestlers is when they have to do the summer shows. Like I did a show once where the bell time temperature was like 95.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and one where we did one in the middle of the afternoon in downtown Santa Clara, where Levi Stadium is.
It's by
The
San
amusement park.
Jose.
Yeah, the amusement park. The ring mat temperature, because it was directly in the sunlight, was 120 degrees.
Yeah.
And so the wrestlers said they didn't mind taking a bump on the mat. What they didn't want to do with any mat work, because they said that hurt worse than any of the falls they took.
Burn their skin.
They were like saying being on the mat and being held on that 120 degree, if you're in a headlock and trying to work out of it, on a 120 degree mat was much worse than just being tossed around and running back and forth.
Russ, let me ask you, Six Flags Great America, they're planning on closing that?
Yeah, they
in
are.
Santa Clara? That was
it's a slow close.
Why?
It's going to be 2030. Amusement parks are kind of coming and going out of style. I think that
But I thought that would survive, the other one that's part of the same family that's up in Vallejo, the animal
Six
park.
Flags Vallejo. But it's a moneymaker. It costs $100 a ticket to go in there, and then they charge you another $100 so you can quote unquote skip the line. So it's for just to show up and go inside the park and have any kind of like fun at all, you have to pay $200. And that's sodas are like $15. Okay. And any other kind of like entertainment food that you want is like in the $20 to $30.
But compare that now with what TKO is charging. They're charging more and ripping off wrestling people than they are with the other product they own, UFC. UFC now is on Paramount Plus, and it's like Peacock was. You pay $9.95 a month, and you get all the UFC pay-per-views and their whole library. No extra charges for pay-per-views, whereas this schmuck outfit for WWE, which they also own, you've heard now, $4,000, $4,500 for ringside at pay-per-views, not just the big ones like WrestleMania or Rumble, but even the Elimination Chamber, and the name of that pay-per-view sounds like what we used to call a toilet, the Elimination Chamber, but I digress. And then you have to pay, what is it, $10 or $12 for ESPN Plus, but that is only the vehicle for which you can then spring $50-$60 for the pay-per-views themselves. So I learned that the hard way with TNA Plus, which is great, for the older content, the classic stuff, but most of the time you have to pay on top of that for the pay-per-views. You're not just getting them, which we thought was what was being advertised. So that's
ridiculous.
A little frustrating.
It's we're being parcel. But what I was about to say is that if we went to Six Flags, if I took a family of 4 to Six Flags, I'd easily spend $1,000 if that just for one afternoon of just hanging out. If I maybe more than $1,000 if I bought food,
Well, remember the parking
souvenirs.
now. That's why the common people, Evan can speak to common folks, can't go like they were. Good blue collar, real Americans can't go to MSG. I mean, the parking alone is over $100, and the ticket prices are sky high. Until people stop going, and everybody's been talking about how slow ticket sales, how much WWE every 15 minutes on their TV has to throw up ads. Tickets available for both nights of WrestleMania. You wait till the week of, and you'll get a $3,000 seat probably for $700-800. That's what everybody says.
Let me do my editorial here. And when you see the seething hatred in my eyes, my wife was walking out of the house, bags packed. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, my mother's in the emergency room. She can't breathe. Seoul, Korea, the other side of the world. We go down to Korean Airlines. They go, that'll be $2,977. I go, her 94-year-old mother is dying. Don't you think that's a little mercenary? And they go, there's nothing we could do.
Uh,
The
Nothing.
plane was boarding. I didn't have time to argue, to ask for supervisors. She gets on the plane. I go home. I'm taking care of two cats. And I'm seeing this everywhere. Springsteen fans are going. He's supposed to be a man of the people. $3,000 for the good seats. $3,000. I'm going to see Patti LaBelle on Saturday night for $30.
wow.
Okay?
I would
Patti
rather go
LaBelle
see her.
Patti LaBelle's as great a performer as has ever stepped foot on a stage. You can't tell me there's any performer worth 100 times as
And she's
much.
not in the poorhouse. Patti LaBelle is not somebody that is, on the street begging for money. At $30 a ticket, you're still making a lot of money. You're still
Well,
making.
the thing is, an empty seat generates no money. So if you, so let's say we go down there, like the last time we went down there, we saw the Rascals, same venue, Westbury Music Fair, beautiful little venue, and so where they get you is on the food, like you were saying before, like a little tiny, snack and a soda. You're looking at 30, $35, whatever. That's where they make their money. The empty seat doesn't make any money, so they're better off charging a small amount and getting people in there spending money. Then you go to the merchandise and you buy some gimmicks, whatever. But WWE second row for WrestleMania VIP is
That's
$37,500.
that's this year's
That's
in,
second row.
and that's this year's in Las Vegas. Not even
Yeah.
talking about the crazy what Emirates prices are going to be when they
Yeah, but
do it.
everybody bitched about the Vegas prices last year for Mania. They already were locked into New Orleans. They promised that WrestleMania this year would come, and then Vegas, whatever, upped the bid, and
They
they
paid
shat on the.
$250 million for the privilege of having WrestleMania back in Vegas again.
Which next year it's in Saudi, which that's going to kill off all of the cottage industries the whole week before WrestleMania. Everybody is there. They all have fantastic shows and one-man shows, and Colt Cabanas, watch wrestling videos and criticize them. All these fun events, they're going to suffer unless, like Tony Khan says, well, let's have our WrestleMania week and still do it here somewhere in the U.S. and he'll have a
What would
big
the
show.
point be of that, though? Who would go to something like that when there's no actual WrestleMania right there for them to go see? I mean, the idea is to assemble all those people for tourism.
Evan doesn't know this, or maybe he does. WWE's put out an edict that all of the hotels, bars, nobody within a 50-mile distance of the Allegiant Stadium where WrestleMania is this year in Vegas, they can't show it at any bar, restaurant, nothing. So that forces people who may not have been priced out of getting a WrestleMania ticket, and they're going to, whatever, Ring of Honor or TNA, whoever's having shows, or, Mick Foley stand up or something. Nikki or Mickey James has her fashion wrestling show. All fun
I
stuff.
met her. I met her the other week at a convention. Very nice, very down to
Yeah,
earth.
Mickey's sweet,
Yeah,
sweet
yeah,
person.
yeah. I liked her. Um,
But what I was going to say was that forces people then, well, you can maybe go in and watch it on your phone in your hotel room if you subscribe and all of that shenanigans, instead of being with other people and getting that, if you went to a bar, say WrestleMania was sold out or you couldn't afford it, you could go have fun with a bunch of people and watch it at a Dave and Buster's. Not now because of the greed I see.
what people should do WrestleMania weekend is hit a ton of indie shows, hit a couple of conventions, hang out with your friends, make it like a vacation, and don't go to WrestleMania. That's what I would do if
Oh,
I'm
and
not
take the
traveling
$3,000 you'd
miles to
spend on
do
a
it.
stupid. Take the $30,000 you'd spend on a seat and invest it in your kid's education fund, or
Yeah, you don't
use
want to
it.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, go to WrestleCon, spend that 30 grand and have a great time at WrestleCon.
I mean, you could go to wrestling like 24 hours a day that for 4 days and spend a fraction of what you would for one nosebleed WrestleMania ticket. So that's what I would do to have fun. I mean, we've gone to WrestleCon as agents and we booked, Greg Valentine and Coco Beware and guys like that and Orndorff. And we had a blast, and we never went to WrestleMania. We went to a variety of, indie shows and took the talent with us. And,
It was a
we're,
blast. The WrestleMania in Santa Clara in 2015, Kevin Nash had a big party that was fun, that was free, and there was APW shows, two, three of those nights, and there was like I go to, or the WrestleCon actual wrestling show went till like 1 in the morning. And I went to the Hall of Fame, WWE's Hall of Fame. Then I went to the WrestleCon show, and then 3 a.m. there's a Kaiju big battle with guys in the.
exactly
That was
24
a
hours a
blast.
day. You could have fun at these things. Let me just say this. Part of what bothers me is the corporate apologists, the fans. What the market will bear. It's a business. It's all about the bottom line. Why apologize for greed? It's greed. The rumor is, it's official. Second row is 37,500 VIP packages. The rumor is first row is 70,000. That's the rumor. Now,
Evan,
yeah.
it's not they're apologizing for it. It's that they admire it.
I
Yeah.
don't know if they admire it, but they pay it because those front row seats, unless they're giving it to celebs, because they're not
But the
paying.
people who are talking about, oh, it's no big deal and it's what the market will bear kind of thing, they're not apologizing for it.
Well, if you
They're
don't
they're
show,
they're
if people
wallowing it.
people say no, if people say no, then that statement doesn't bear water. What the market will bear, well, the people are saying fuck off and not paying those kind of crazy things. You could go and see. I've heard people say, for 30, $40, they can go to AEW and, maybe not where Evan sat, where there was something in his view a couple of years ago, but like they're coming to New York City, AEW. Do you know
Yeah.
what the ticket prices are, and are you going to go see them?
Um, I believe ringside was $578 with you get the chair, which compared to WrestleMania is
Yeah, it's a
not bad, but
deal.
I'm not spending $578 to see anything. But
No,
um,
you're not when you
but
can
on
see Patty
top,
LaBelle for $30. No,
but
not
on
when you.
top, you can get a reasonably priced seat, and if you go to a Nick game, it's $300-400 on top in the nosebleeds, and if you go to WrestleMania, it's like 800 or whatever on top. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let me just say this, as an old school fan, who was there for the Bruno era, the Billy Graham era, Backlund, of course. Um, they ran 12 to 14 Madison Square Garden shows a year, 12 to 14. And now it's 3, 4, 5 shows a year. Now it's a Christmas present, a graduation present, a birthday present. Because like Russ is saying, with Russ you have two parents and two kids. Imagine the cheapest ticket for Raw at the Garden coming up is $122. So right there, that's $500 if four people are going.
Yeah.
Before you park, eat, buy merch, you're looking at Russ said $1,000 evening. It's
Do you
insane.
remember the Vince Senior TV tapings, Hamburg, Allentown? Did they
Free,
charge?
free.
They were free. They were free everywhere. They were free in LA for KCOP. They were free in Florida. They were free in Texas at the
You couldn't
Sportatorium
give
for
away
television.
tickets for a TV taping. Now they'd rather be at the TV taping because they think they're part of the show. They're
Uh,
singing, they're chanting, they're eating. You could eat from here to tomorrow. It's not worth $70,000. You know.
I could eat well for not
That's
eat,
right.
but eat well for $70,000.
Absolutely. So, one thing I wanted to commend you, Evan, is not only bringing your Facebook page back from the dead, which, you've had to do multiple times now, thanks to, Facebook's delicate systems, but you brought back the question of the day, which I think has been
Yeah.
great. And you've had some great topics that you've brought up, I think, which is really good. I mean, how are you coming up with those questions of the day? You just off the top of your head?
I just sit and meditate, and
It's a
it's
Tai Chi thing?
what's bothering me, what's inspiring me, what's nostalgic, and I just come up with an idea, and yeah, and
I'm not
people
aware of
people
this. Evan, what are some of the questions of the day you've run?
what was the best experience you ever had at a wrestling event? What's the worst experience you ever had at a wrestling event? Stuff like that. What was the worst main event you ever saw live? And what popped into my head was Lex Luger against Ludwig Borger for the WWF
Oh God.
Championship. That was
Oh,
brutal.
yeah.
Oh,
Brutal.
but I had the misfortune of seeing The Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez live in
Mm.
'93 as a main event. And oh my God, that was
Not
just
even Flair could carry poor Jorge Gonzalez, Giant
Yeah, I saw
no.
Gonzalez,
Flair
El
versus
Gigante.
Gonzalez live. That was brutal for
Yeah,
the
it was brutal.
NWA.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I mean, apparently he was a nice enough guy, but Giant Gonzalez was just all just, not every massive guy. A lot of people don't understand that when you have acromegaly, not everybody that's huge can be like Andre the Giant, where you've got, just that massive frame and the musculature to handle it. I mean, and the mental skill to wrestle. I mean, poor Khali, the great Khali, was so huge. When I met him the first time, I mean, when he first came to
He broke in
APW,
APW, Roland
yeah.
Alexander's
Oh yeah, I
APW.
managed him for a match, and I mean, when you would shake his entire hand would cover yours like you were a small child. So it's like he was huge, but no one had taught him how. I mean, there's a big difference when you grow up with wrestling and you understand the whole concept of it, and it's another thing that when as an adult you're trying to learn how to do it. And that was the thing with Kali. He was never into any kind of combat
Dalip Singh, that was
sports.
his real name,
Right,
Dalip Singh.
right. And he was never taught anything like the martial arts, for instance, or, how to box or how to, do anything that involved. I mean, he's a weightlifter. So he knew how to lift weights. But that doesn't, I mean, we've seen with like Ted Arcidi as a good example, of guys who are, big bodybuilders, but can't work,
That's
a
where a lot of
match.
pro wrestlers were found. Vampiro was the exception because he actually learned how to wrestle and could fly and do things for a fairly big guy. But a lot of guys plucked out of gyms just as bodybuilders or weightlifters. It didn't pan out, and some did fantastically well. But
Yeah, Lex Luger in the NWA was much better than people give him credit for. Luger and Flair had some excellent matches. He stunk out the place as WWF champ. He was not meant to be a face. But heel Lex Luger a few years earlier, he was actually pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
he wasn't Terry Funk or Ricky Steamboat, but the guy was good. And he's got a bad rap.
Well, that's because for me, he gave me my single worst interview, and
That's a different story.
I mean, not just worst wrestling interview. It's my worst sports interview of all time. Was he was pardon me, guys. He was
but
at the end of the Lex Across America tour, and he was so checked out that when I went to interview him for a radio show, he gave me nothing but yes and no answers. Most of them were no answers. It was 5 minutes. He like had me on his bus, 5 minutes, like quickly just got me off the bus, closed the door on all these kids that were trying to get his autograph, and just sped off. He was over at Waterworld, USA, in Cal State Amphitheater fairgrounds, and never was I with a guy that wanted to be interviewed less in my entire lifetime.
compare that with the Hardys, who they'll give the shirt off their back to their fans. They'll stay out there 5 hours, when all the wrestlers are already asleep at
Oh
their
yeah, no, I
hotel.
know lots of really nice guys that have
Austin, The
been.
Rock, they were always good. Mick Foley, always good to their fans.
Yeah, but Lex, you're right, Evan, that he just absolutely was miscast as a face. He was back then. He was even as a face. He was really uncomfortable with it in the Lex Across America. Plus,
Well, why do you
that
think he was, they tell you to take some aspect of your character, magnify it. Why he was using the narcissist gimmick initially. That's why.
it was also at the end of a 3,000-mile tour that I don't think he liked to begin with. I think Vince pushed him on that bus and made him do that tour when he was like, "Oh, I don't think that's a great idea." So I mean, that's kind of what I got from him when I did do the interview. But it was so bad the radio station didn't even decide to air it.
Wow.
So
Speaking of unhappy wrestlers, I don't know if you saw this. I don't even know her. This Thea Hall from NXT. She was practically crying that she gets so much abuse on social media. And, there's a lot of dateless wonders out there. There's a lot of women haters out there. There's a lot of.
She's like 19 or 20. She does
22,
amazingly
she
well.
said. 22.
She's amazing as a talent.
Yeah. So she was practically in tears saying how every single day she gets abuse and criticism. My theory would be, just use the social media to promote yourself and don't even read the comments if she's that upset, because she's the one out there putting a body on the line and taking.
But it's a generational thing. I mean, it's like you can't not look at like the responses that you get. That it's why you do it in the first place.
I've had two assholes for years put out vicious videos about me, and my previous book, they said, where do you have the nerve to write a book about yourself? The one genius looks at the book and he goes, "What is it?" Like he's never seen a book before, So I just let it roll off my back. I haven't even responded to them,
Good. Because those guys are gorillas that have no life whatsoever, and I know exactly.
It's brutal. In fact, Bubba Ray Dudley, to put him over, I forget which female wrestler it wasn't Thea Hale that Evan brought up, who's a very good talent, has a lot of spunk and all of that. But it was another female wrestler who was extremely depressed, almost suicidal again, and he brought up his friend Hana Kimura, who did commit suicide in Japan when she got all this hate mail.
Well, it's like the same story we got from Vicky Venuto.
Yeah.
I mean, she has to be really brave to stand up for herself and, face criticism. And, she's really brave. Another person I'd love to get back on the show again soon, because she's had to deal with that kind of sniping of her public persona, because, you put yourself out there and people will take shots at you. They will. No matter what you're trying to do, no matter what kind of a message you're trying to bring. I mean, even us here have taken, as Evan has pointed out, we've taken shots from people that are completely unwarranted, and a lot of them, those shots are just people that are agenda. They have nothing better to do. They could be doing their own show, and some of them have their own show. And why not just do your own show?
Everybody has a show. It's like that movie Network that predicted
Andy Warhol said at some point everybody will have a podcast. No, I just made that up.
Well,
he said everybody will have their 2 minutes of fame or 20 minutes of fame.
15 minutes.
15 minutes
15
of fame.
minutes.
Yeah, I was close. Yeah.
Let me throw out something before I forget. We lost Country Joe McDonald, who I think was born and raised in the Bay Area, but he was huge at Woodstock. That's his most famous,
1, 2,
gig.
3. What are we fighting for?
And and he was a champion of all these great causes, and he kept going. Not just from the '60s, but he carried it through until his passing. And you got to celebrate. A lot of these guys. I'm surprised.
You forget Woodstock 60 years ago already. So these guys are old. Yeah. Sly just died. Who was greater than Sly at Woodstock? Sly Stone.
Who was greater than Sly? Period.
I don't know.
So many grazing. I encourage people to take breaks from wrestling. Go pick up obscure songs by like The Doors, and you'll go. Oh gee, I only knew X amount of songs from them. Or go watch the Doors biopic with what's his face, who just died a couple of months ago, Val Kilmer as the lead role, and you'll hear some stuff because they used original Doors music.
Val Kilmer's gone too.
Yeah, gone too, and just amazing music. There's so much good stuff. That's kind of what bothers me. I want to put out I've got my own question, and maybe Evan can throw it up on his Facebook page. Is how do people deal? I've been saying this for years. How are people dealing with having a 2 to 3 hour block of wrestling every single night? And when A&E
I
starts
don't
doing the
watch it.
Sunday
That's how I
blocks,
deal with it.
Yeah, but no, it's a good question though.
but other people like,
Do you watch some of it?
Netflix Raw, 2.5 hours. Most of the now, so Tony Khan can get the overrun rating bump. His Dynamite on Wednesdays, 2.5 hours. Tuesday NXT on from WWE. Thursday is a good, sharp, fast-moving TNA on AMC cable. Friday, 3 hour, back to 3 hours of SmackDown. Saturday, 2 hours plus and change Collision from AEW, and then Sunday, once the A&E 3 hour blocks happen. And I'm not even talking about shows you should be watching, like Saturday night's the AAA show that WWE puts on free on their YouTube channel. You
And
can't
the
watch
NWA
it on any.
Power show that's on the internet, and all the
Does
wrestling.
does
Like,
West Coast Pro have any? Do they televise their matches or anything
you
like
can
that? I
see
don't know
them
much
on
about.
YouTube. You can catch them on YouTube. I mean, there's
They have some
almost
fantastic talent that come
yeah.
in
I
and
mean,
out.
there's almost an infinite amount of material that's available, indie material that's online. I mean, you could
Well, there's
literally
a
watch.
channel free streamer like Tubi, but Wrestling.tv, I think, has the Ring of Honor original announcer. What's his name? Bobby something of who's still with AEW. He co-promotes an all-women's wrestling show that's supposed to be great. The longtime Ring of Honor ring announcer. Why am I?
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
But
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up another topic while we have a little bit of time left, and that is Stars of Wrestling, which they've been on our show and they promoted, through this program. They've had me out to one of their shows, and I thought it was a really good show. They had a cancellation that they were forced to have this weekend
Oh,
on
this
one of
that
their
show. I
shows.
got a thing from it because Mickey James is supposed to be the ref, or ODB and Mickey James were going to be part of it as refs or something like that. What happened? What was the reason it got canceled?
I don't have the exact details of
And it
why it was
wasn't in
canceled.
Alameda, like a minute from my old house. It wasn't in Alameda, at that beautiful venue on the water that they had the last,
Right,
10
right.
years.
Yeah, no, that athletic center. No, I don't. It was in San Lorenzo, I think, or maybe it was in.
Something
But
like
either
that.
way, it was canceled last second. But what I wanted to point out was something happened that rarely ever occurs in the history of professional wrestling, which is that even though there was a cancellation, the boys still got paid for showing up.
Uh,
I know. Now you
but you
don't
don't know
hear
why the
that.
show is canceled? The
No,
venue
I do
canceled?
not. I do not. As I said, it was last night. So,
Icebox, who I dragged to APW, he was a roller derby guy with the last incarnation of the Bay Bombers.
and we need to get him on the show.
Well, Robert Smith, Icebox, he was the promoter, and he picked me and Tony Hernandez, we booked the first show. I came up with the name. We called it Oaktown Championship Wrestling for a couple of years because the home base was Oakland, and he renamed it Stars of Wrestling. So I brought Tony Fury on to talk about it. They've had lots of TNA talent, like old BTW. I don't even know if Kirk's wife is still running that, but um, as I think all of us would agree, your indies, no matter where you are in the world, go out and support them. You'll get more bang for less buck,
But
and you'll have a great time.
a real stand-up promoter
Yeah,
to
that's great.
lose. He probably lost several $1,000s last night. But if you not only all the promotional material you put out and all the moving truck that you have to get and all these other things to get a show ready. I mean, people don't understand this, but there's a huge capital layout to put forward before you go and put a show on. And so he has that. And, when a show is canceled, most promoters just go to the guys that show up and say, go on home. There's no show here. The very first California Championship Wrestling show that we did, the day of the show, the venue told us we didn't have enough insurance while we had been in negotiations with them for months over it. And at the very last second, they said that the $1 million policy wasn't enough. Yeah, they wanted a $2 million policy. And we had already committed to have a huge show. And one of the toughest moments of my life was standing at the actual gate and telling people there's no show to put on tonight because the venue won't let us perform here. And we had to turn everybody away. And I don't know if you've ever had to do that, or know anyone that's had to do that. But there's been few things that have crushed my spirit as much as something like that. To put all the effort into putting a show together, then tell everyone, no, there's no show going on tonight. Really something, and so I feel very badly for Stars of Wrestling. I hope that
have you heard of that ever on the East Coast? That's a rarity when the show just gets canceled last minute. I don't think I've heard too much of that.
There have been cases where rival promoters have called in, bomb
fire
threats
marshal.
and fire marshals and crazy stuff, and that I've heard of, over many, many years. But every once in a while, because of a weather emergency, they'll just cancel a show a day or two in advance.
That never happens in California.
Yeah, we had 3 major snowstorms this winter, so. Yeah.
How is the weather there now? Do you guys still have snow?
Today was the first spring-like day. It was in the 60s. It was beautiful.
Oh, nice.
I was doing Tai Chi outdoors in the park.
I was going to say the weather's, geez, it sounded like it was brutal. It's brutal.
It was a brutal winter, brutal.
Is it getting worse every year? It sounds like if last year was bad, this year's bad.
No, actually, it's the worst winter in like 10 years. I mean, last winter was pretty mild.
And your wife is still in Korea right now?
Yeah, she's coming back tomorrow.
So the cats will be thrilled.
Yeah, one of the cats is right behind me having fun.
How do the cats react? Like when she's gone, do they go nuts and really let her know they're happy she's back?
They're like dogs. When she comes in, they greet her. They're excited. They're jumping up and down.
My dogs
are
don't
rescue
do that.
cats again.
My dog
Rescue
doesn't do
cats.
that.
Cats have the IQ of a 2 or 3 year old kid or a 12-year-old wrestling fan. One or the other.
35-year-old wrestling.
35-year-old wrestling fan.
I'll never forget. Evan and I are at a bunch of events in the late 80s, early 90s, and we would see these constant guys. And I remember it was like early 70s ad, and Evan just popped right up and said, "Those guys look like Weebles Wobbles." And only an old fart like me would get the joke. And they looked exactly like those, the Weebles Wobbles. You can push them, but they won't fall down. That was the TV ad spot.
Yeah, wrestling fans have the gall to comment when a wrestler doesn't have a 6-pack of abs. It's one of the most horribly conditioned fan bases I've ever seen. And oh man, I don't know.
Oh, this is the wrestler, the female wrestler that Bully Ray was defending, that was getting all this hate mail, and she shut off the tag champion in AEW. What's her name? The Aussie girl. Everybody would know, and she's like the sweetest person in the world. I can't imagine anybody. I'm going to look her up right now. Why anybody? Willow Nightingale's tag partner.
Willow Nightingale used to do my old show out in Long Island, and she was just an indie wrestler back then. I'm glad she made it.
She's a sweet person, isn't she?
Very nice, very nice.
Harley Cameron. Harley Cameron was the one that got death threats because she missed catching somebody, and it wasn't even her fault, and she got shat on by all these people. Kill yourself, all this stuff. She shut off her social, and Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray, came to her defense. Anybody that knows her, and I met her a couple of times, very sweet. Just, you can tell, like Willow Nightingale, you can tell that's really her. I mean, she seems like a really nice person as well. I don't understand, unless you're a loser, don't trash somebody.
Well, people get really brave behind the keyboard and behind,
no, that's not bravery. That's bullshit.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying is that, it's
Yeah.
real brave to hide behind a keyboard and insult people and people giving death threats. It's just what is going on that's really so,
It's entertainment, folks. It's just
yes.
choreographed
People
fighting
are doing it to
opera.
entertain you. They're trying to do it so that you're entertained. And you get so angry at them for that. Watch something
WWE is
else.
alleged entertainment. Alleged.
Well, yeah, it's at least somebody's idea of what entertainment,
Yeah.
you know. Well, but anyway, I mean, it's we're getting close to the end of the hour here. Evan, why don't you throw out some things that you're promoting here?
I just put out a new book this past week. It's called Grindhouse, Art House, and Wrestling Flicks, 318 pages,
Ooh.
and it chronicles some really incredible experiences going to movie theaters. Over the years, seeing the original Halloween in a movie theater, people jumping out of their chairs, seeing Rocky, which felt like you were first row at Madison Square Garden. People are out of the habit of going to movie theaters, seeing Rocky Horror at midnight. Amazing experience in New York.
You're
With
right. It is different seeing stuff with an audience. It's something that kids aren't really used to. That's for sure.
Bruce Lee, Bruce Lee flicks where every seat, we would have kids sitting in the aisles. There was so many people the day a Bruce Lee film opened up in the Grindhouse in Brooklyn back in the day. And yeah, and tons of reviews and tons of content on wrestling movies and wrestlers in movies. And it's called Grindhouse, Art House, and Wrestling Flicks. And check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. And there'll be some films that you probably never heard of that it'll turn you on to them. And, I'm always grateful when somebody tells me this is a great film. You got to see it. Or this film is so bad it's good, like some Grindhouse films. You got to see it.
It's on Amazon, right?
Which one?
No, this is his
Your
book.
Grindhouse.
No, it's
Well,
a
this is
book.
my book, Grindhouse, Art House, and Wrestling
Is
Flicks.
it
Well, I
on
hope there's some
Amazon?
horror. Is there some horror in the movies?
Tons of
Good,
it. Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah. And
Can people get it on Amazon, or how can
yeah,
you
yeah,
get
it's
it?
on Amazon. Yeah, check it out. And 318 pages, all on movies, packed with stuff. And one of the reasons I got this done was I was basically sequestered much of the winter because of these snowstorms. It was a horrible winter, and I used the time well. So check it
Hey,
out.
Apocalypse is what brought this show to fruition. So, so out of these kind of disasters, sometimes some good
Evan, did
stuff
you
can.
did you cover Grunt the wrestling movie? Is that in there too?
Um, I don't remember because I
So
don't
now you're gonna
remember.
have to get a
That
copy.
one is so bad it's bad.
So
You're
bad
gonna
it's
have to buy a
bad.
copy,
Yeah.
Mike.
The
You're gonna have to
scene
go.
where Adrian Street is talking to Tolis, and Tolis is like a man's man, and he's talking to a guy doing a gimmick of a gay guy, and I know he wasn't pleased to be in that one-on-one scene, whatever. They're waiting outside the promoter's office. A lot of very bad wrestling movies.
A lot of the wrestlers people don't realize guys like Gene LaBelle made tons of movies. They were in
Oh,
all
he's
the
got the biggest IMDb as a
yeah, they were in
stuntman
the
and
black
everything.
exploitation films like Black Belt Jones with Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly's fighting Judo Gene LaBelle and Earl Maynard and all these guys. It's wrestling fans would appreciate this book because they're probably not aware of a
Oh,
lot of this.
You Only Live Twice. Peter Mavia has that big fight
Yeah,
scene
Peter
at the
Maivia,
beginning.
that's right.
Oh, that's one of the great fight scenes with Sean Connery. That's an amazing scene right there alone.
We used to say that the scene in From Russia with Love when Sean Connery is fighting Robert Shaw on the train. That's one of the all-time great fight sequences. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, I have people look forward to that. And next week, we've got another great show headed for everyone with a special guest from Australia. So I ask everyone to tune in for that. And otherwise, we'll see you guys next week.
And
Good night,
in
everyone.
2 weeks, don't tell anybody. In 2 weeks, we've got one of the biggest movie and TV stars ever.
Ever.
Fingers crossed. But
We're actually bringing back Bob Hope. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone. See you, everyone. Good
Good
night.
night, everybody. Boom.
He's gone.